What's your biggest retirement question? Whatever it is, you'll find answers here. It's time for Right on the Money.
Welcome to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder at Mosley Wealth Management. Thank you so much for tuning into the program today as we talk investing, finance, and retirement with Tom. He's got 30 plus years of experience in the financial sector and looking forward to a great show today. If you've got questions or concerns along the way, here's something that sparks an interest, reach out to Tom and his team at 855-526-1600. That's 855-526-1600. Tom, how are you today? Welcome in.
I'm doing great. And Mark, I'd like to introduce you and welcome you to the show, Marc Killian. And he's going to be joining us as our host going forward. And, you know, we've gone through a couple of hosts here recently as we've been trying to go through a little transition. But I'm very excited to bring Mark and introduce all of our listeners out there to Mark. And I know that a lot of you are out there and you listen all the time, because when you finally do make it into our office, you say stuff like, hey, we've been listening to Tom on the radio for the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and I get it. I understand you got to wait till the timing is right, but some of you need to get off the button and the timing is right now to come in and see us and to get a plan in place. The time to fix the roof is before it rains. You've heard me say that 1,000 times, and you need to get that plan in place. So we haven't changed anything with the show. We're to the same format that we're going to use. We're going to do our best. If you'll give us an hour, we're going to do our best to make sure we increase your financial knowledge and help you in any way you can. And hey, we've helped thousands of people along the way just with personal meetings and getting togethers. And Mark, welcome to the show. I know with your experience and the decades that you've been doing this as well, you're going to add to what we do with this show, and I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I will do my best. And yeah, I mean, Tom said it succinctly and very well, so get yourself on the calendar, folks. Come on in and have a conversation. 855-526-1600. Got offices in Anaheim, Arcadia, Encino, Ontario, San Diego, and of course, you can always just do Zoom as well, which is a great resource. So 855-526-1600. Tom, well, let's dive in and have a chat about some things. So we're going to kick things off with it's kind of a chance for me to learn more about you and me and all that good stuff. And are you a music fan?
I am a music fan. I definitely like country music, but I also like the 60s and 70s. One of our shows is one of those oldie stations. Mm-hmm. I realized how old I was. I have gotten to recently in that they quit playing the 60s. Now they play the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I asked one of the DJs that's a friend of mine, I said, why did you do that? And he said, we can't be the real oldie station. We just are the oldie station. So I do like the 60s music and the 70s music. It's cool.
Nice. Well, my mom was a country singer when I was growing up, so I was raised on country as well. And I'm a big fan of all sorts of genres as well. So I graduated a few moons ago, but we're going to have a little fun conversation here. Since you enjoy the 60s, we're going to talk a little Beatles for a few minutes and let you kind of spin some financial wisdom from some classic lyric lines from the Beatles. Okay. So
sounds good.
I'll set you up and I'll give you the line, and then you kind of just spin a little financial yarn for us.
Okay.
All right. So pretty classic. These are all classic. Everybody's going to know these. Sing along if you want to in your car as you're listening to us or wherever you are. First line, nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. Do you know what song that's from?
Do I sing it or just say
it's
it?
Up to you.
All you need is love.
There you go.
Ba-da-da-da. Yeah, I love that song.
There you go.
That's great. When I think about that song, I just think there's some people that are so afraid. I mean, the number one fear of people 55 years of age and older is running out of money before you die. And it really is not that hard to put together a plan if that's what you do. My neighbor across the street, who actually works for me, one of my advisors, 𝗟𝗲𝘁 yesterday put in a hot water heater. And most people, you think, he put in a hot water heater? Yeah, it's not that hard if you just take it one step at a time. But so many people are sitting out there when it comes to financial services, Mark, and they're just afraid. There's a great deal of fear that they're going to run out of money before they die. And so they're afraid to take a step to really investigate. I think the classic line is when they come in to see one of our advisors, when they used to come in and see me, they would hold up their statement and it's still in the envelope and it's still not opened. and they said, I'm afraid to open it. Especially if the market is down, not like it is now, but if the market is down. But you need to get help. You can't just bury your head in the sand, and that's a hope strategy. Hope strategies don't work. You need to get help. And a lot of people say, well, can I afford the help? Well, get a load of this. Vanguard did a study, came out in January of 2022. Now, Vanguard is the champion of self-investors, people who do it themselves, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And Vanguard came out with this study, and they found out that people who over a 30-year period work with an advisor versus people who don't work with an advisor, the people who work with an advisor have more than twice as much money at the end. And it's just a little over a 3% positive gain every single year by working with that advisor. Just a little bit more on maybe the way your portfolio is constructed. They said they called it behavioral coaching, just keeping you from jumping off the ledge when the market really takes one of those downturns, and just a focus on income. But people who work with an advisor and are not afraid, it's really that easy. You have to pick up the phone. You have to find an advisor that you trust. That's the biggest thing right there. And if you're listening to the show, obviously you've started listening to the show, or you've listened to it for a period of time, and you already trust us in a lot of ways, or you wouldn't spend your time listening to the show. So you need to take that step to push the easy button, and pushing the easy button is just reaching out and saying, I need some help. Now here's what we do. We do a little bit differently, Mark, than a lot of other places. We don't charge you to come in and build a plan for you. We will build a plan for you, and then you decide whether you want to work with us or not. That's how we roll. We want to make it easy for you, and you choose to do it yourself. A lot of people have done it themselves, and they come back 2 years later and they say, here, I'm tired of doing this. Why don't you take it over, and why don't you run with it, Tom? But it's easy. You can't bury your head in the sand, but you need to reach out and get help. And don't be scared of it. You need to get a plan, and it's easy to do it.
Yeah, and all you need is a little love and support and some financial education will go a long way, right?
Exactly.
And that number is 855-526-1600. Again, 855-526-1600. All right, great job. Good job on that first one. Let's do another one here. Really classic. Let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, Tom, and just let it be, right? So I think you mentioned the market a little bit ago. When it comes to volatility and nerves, sometimes I think human nature is to fiddle with something. Well, if I fiddle with this, I can make it better.
Right. I cannot tell you how many times that somebody has come in and they said, I go back to a few years ago, Brexit, where Britain was going to pull out of the European Union. And then there was a deal in China where China had a big date on the calendar circled where things were going to all change. And most recently, this spring, we've had, that's going to be tariff day, or this summer, that's the day the tariffs go into effect and the market's going to be down 12, 15, 14%. The worst thing you can do is try to play the market, because the market will bite you every single time. It'll come back and just raise its head and bite you. And so many times the problem with the market, Mark, is that people do the opposite of anything else. When the market is down, their fear causes them to want to get out and sell. And when the market is up, their greed causes them to want to get in. Now, if you were going to buy a car, and Mark, I know you're married, you were to go to your wife and you were to say, I heard that cars were right now higher than they've ever been before. They just raised the price on all cars, and I think it's the time we should go buy one.
She'd look at me cross-eyed. Yeah,
exactly. And my wife would probably say something. Well, I don't want to.
Mine would say something snarky for sure. Yeah, exactly.
Right, that's true. Because nobody wants to buy something when it's the very highest. You want to buy something when the price actually goes down. So when the market, I know real investors, and when the market is going down, and you're afraid, for goodness sakes, let it be. Let it be, because all the way back from when the markets first started, way back in 1896, okay, if you would just leave your money in the market tends to have a recovery. And so many times this year even, we've had 700-point downturns, 1,000-point downturns in one day. And what happens the next day? It bounces back. What happens the next week? It's already past where it was when it started the downturn. So for goodness sakes, let it be. Don't let fear cause you to get out on the bottom. Because if you get out on the bottom and go to cash and the market turns around, you miss all of that gain. You miss all of that get back. And more often than not, if you'll just let it be, in fact, if you will let it be, then things work. A guy came in recently and he said, you know, Tom, I found this old 401k. I haven't looked at it in 20 years, forgot I had it. And I don't know how it's done. Here's the statement. He's one of those guys who hadn't opened the statement even. And so I opened the statement, and he said, the last time I looked about 20 years ago, there was $40,000 in there. That statement was $183,000 because he had just let it alone.
Wow.
He had just left it there. And had it gone down? Absolutely. It had atrocious days. I'm sure in COVID it was down like crazy. But overall, it was more than 4 times larger because he had just let it be. And a lot of you guys are in that position.
That's a great point. And boy, you just really did a great job tying these all together. You even slipped in a little get back there as well. Make sure you stick around for more of Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder at Mosley Wealth Management, serving you here in Southern California. Get yourself onto the calendar with his team of all-star advisors and get that retirement blueprint for yourself. 855-526-1600. That's 855-526-1600 to get started today. Don't go anywhere. There's more to come right after this here on Right on the Money.
Retirement taxes can take a big bite out of your savings. Want to know what your bill could be? Go to 𝗬𝗵𝗲𝗕𝗲burdens.com and you can uncover your potential retirement tax bill in just 3 easy steps. And get your no-cost report instantly. Go now to 𝗬𝗵𝗲𝗕𝗲burdens.com and see where you stand.
Back here for more of Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder at Mosley Wealth Management, serving you here in Southern California. Tom, we were having a great conversation, doing a little Beatlemania this week on the show, and you're doing a great job breaking down some of the lyrics with some financial wisdom. And we started to talk about Get Back, classic Beatles song, classic line, get back to where you once belong. And I kind of set you up a little bit by saying, it doesn't matter what's derailed you financially. There's a lot of things that can. How do you get back to where you need to be or want to be? So how are you going to break that down?
Let's start before you get off track.
Okay.
You've got to have a track before you can get off track. Okay. I mean, this is just a logical sequence of events there. So that's where I think that there are a lot of people who are listening to our show on a regular basis, and they finally decide when they're 48, 50 is a big year, Mark.
Yeah.
I mean, you hit 50 and you think, oh my goodness, we've been focusing on the kids, the house, the jobs,
Yep.
and we haven't really been focusing on putting away money for our retirement. Well, I think you need to get the track. We call that track a retirement blueprint. And you say, well, I'm not going to retire when I'm 50. No, but you need to know what it looks like.
Yep.
I mean, I love to go to Europe. I've taken the Danube River cruise. I've taken the Viking cruise from Athens to Venice.
Yeah.
And I've got other cruises through the Greek. I love taking those trips. We go to Italy sometimes and just go by train to the different. But you know what I do? I'm already planning my next 2 or 3 trips because I'm charting out the towns I want to go to and the things I want to see, and I'm putting it down on paper, and I've got a plan, and I usually carve out about 10 to 14 days. And you say, Tom, that's a trip to Italy. Right. Some of you will spend more time planning a 10-day trip to Italy or a 2-week trip to Italy than you do a 2 or 3 decade retirement. But you got to have the track in order to get off track. So let's say you put the track together and it's in pencil. Okay, I get it. But you know what you're going to project as to how much you're going to need. You know what you're going to project as to where your income comes from. You know really a big time deal how much your taxes are going to be off of that 401k and that IRA. You need to know those things because you're going to get blown off track. Now, that's what we're talking about right now. Get back, get back to where you once belong. Some of you have been blown off track by job loss, by a medical emergency, by a family emergency. Some of you are in a situation where you were on track and then you've got blown off track. Okay, how could you get blown off track? Well, you get blown off track sometimes just by like you're in the sandwich years. You say, what do you mean by the sandwich years? Because the kids are still there, you're paying for college, and guess what? Mom and dad or mom or dad are still there because you've had to take them back in because they didn't have plans for retirement enough to really take care of themselves. So you're in that, and that's going to throw you off track. I know this, Mark, because this happened to me 2 years ago. I mean, I had my middle child of 5 shows up at our door, gives us a call, shows up and says, "Hey, the 2 girls that are 4, that are at that time they were 2, and they were 6, and they said, we got to live here for about the next 8 to 10 months. So, what did that do? It changed our life. It threw us off track. So some of you have been in that situation financially where something has thrown you off track, and you need to get back on track. You need to get back to the plan. You need to get back to the focus. You need to readjust that. And you can't readjust something that you don't have in place. And here's something I want to cry out to you who are in your early 50s. And you say, well, we're still doing the college, Tom, and we're still doing mom and dad, Tom. And once we get that all done, we'll really focus on our retirement. Be careful. I would have the alarm bells go off, Mark, in these people's lives. Because what's happening is you're going to endanger the goose. You say, what do you mean the goose? In most cases, you, my friend, are the goose. If you're by yourself and you're single, you're the goose.
That's right. The golden egg, yeah.
You're the one laying the golden eggs for those college kids, for the mom and dad who can't afford to live on their own. Maybe they're not living with you, but you've got them in a home and you're having to foot most of the bill of that. I've got literally almost 1,000 clients, and I've got people who are experiencing that right now. So get back. Get back. Have a plan to get back when you get thrown off track, because life is still going to happen and you're still going to be thrown off track, and you need a plan.
That's great. Yeah. And when you mentioned the 50, I've been saying this for years, Tom. When you mentioned 50, it's like, well, it's too early to retire. But I've equated 50 as the unofficial kickoff to retirement. Much like Memorial Day is not actually summer, but we treat it like it's summer,
I know. It's so funny, Mark. People come in and they say, okay, what's your date of birth? Okay, I was born 50 years ago. You're 50 years old. Yes, I just want to get a retirement plan. How much do you have saved? Well, we don't have anything. You know what I mean? It is so often, or we've got 40,000 or less than 100,000 or maybe at the most 200,000.
Right.
But they're waking up and saying, oh my goodness, or even worse. And they're saying, it's coming.
It's coming. Yeah.
And everybody intends to work forever and be healthy, but you can plan to do that, but you might not be healthy, and you might get laid off, and there are all kind of things that are going to happen. You better have a plan to get that goose in great shape, laying golden eggs as early as you can.
Yep.
Because there's never going to be too much gold. Nobody's ever come to me and say, Tom, I just made too much money. I've got too much money here. And nobody's ever been in that position, and you need to get that plan put in place.
Tom and his team of all-stars are here to help at 855-526-1600. That's 855-526-1600. Of course, you can also just meet on Zoom as well, so that's a great way to do that. And so Tom's doing a great job breaking down some of these Beatle lyrics here, turning them into some financial wisdom. I think we can do another one here, and before we jump out and take another break, I got to go with another classic. Going to go with Yesterday. All my troubles seem so far away, and now it looks as though they're here to stay. And I know, thinking about the here to stay thing, if we're talking finance, Tom, we don't want financial troubles to stay with us, obviously, permanently, but there are some things that do happen, unfortunately, in the business that you're in, when it comes to dealing with finances. And that's usually going to be the loss of a loved one, where finances change and life's change, maybe, obviously permanently.
It's not always in your 80s and 90s,
No,
Mark.
sir.
I mean, I'll never forget a phone call about 10 years ago. I had this beautiful young couple came over, upper 50s, retiring, all the money they needed to do everything in retirement, and we got all the plan put in place. We have a kickoff meeting where we bring people back in and go over everything that we've done to show them exactly all of their accounts, and any kind of documents we need to give them, we give them. And I called up this house, and I talked to this lady, and I said, "Hello, I'm calling to schedule you guys to come in for our delivery kickoff meeting where you come back in, and I'd like to, to have you guys come in." And she said, "That's going to be really hard to do because my husband just passed away yesterday, and he had passed away in a tragic motorcycle accident."
Aw.
And I really hated it because this guy had already become a really, a friend, and I could tell that I love to be friends with my people that I've worked with. I've got one guy out in San Bernardino. He's an attorney, and he became a client of mine 2 months after I started in 1995, Mark, and he's still a great friend, and we have lunch together about once every other year or so. I go out, and he takes the time off and have lunch, and this guy was going to be one of those guys too. You could just tell, but boom, right there, they were starting, and life for this lady changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's all the troubles seem so far away. They seem like we'll get to that point. We'll go through the go-go stage. We'll go through the slow-go stage, and we'll grow old together in the no-go stage. And boom, right there at the beginning of the go-go stage, it had gone away, and it was no longer there. And the same thing, it doesn't have to be the death of a loved one or a spouse. We work, so many of you are out there who are single, and you've rowed the boat by yourself. You know how hard it is to be single and to create a path financially of security, and we've helped so many of you who are single do that. But some of you are single because you were a couple at one point and you lost the spouse. And so many times too, Mark, we've got people who they haven't lost their spouse, but the spouse has lost the capacity to travel and to enjoy that retirement. They're in need of long-term care, and there was no preparation made for it. A lot of people say, "Well, I'll cross that bridge when I get there," but that bridge may be coming sooner than you think. The song yesterday is "My Troubles Seem So Far Away." But it's better to have those conversations and to make the decisions now when there isn't an issue, rather than to wait until there is an issue. And when somebody's gone, you can't make estate planning issues and decisions on even medical care in the hospital. And what do we do? Do we try to sustain life? Do we hold on to life? Do we pull the plug? I'll just say it that way. And all of those decisions are things that go into a real retirement blueprint, because the last part of that is an estate plan. We don't do that, but we refer people to attorneys who do. And it's all part of getting your retirement secure. So if you don't have that, and you're thinking that all my troubles are way down the road, they may not be. Let's get together with one of our advisors in one of our 5 offices, and let's talk through it and get a plan for you.
Well, all you got to do is reach out to them, 855-526-1600. That's 855-526-1600 to get yourself onto the calendar for that retirement blueprint, for that conversation with Tom's team of all-star advisors, whether it's, in Anaheim or Arcadia, Encino, Ontario, San Diego, or again, as I said before, on Zoom. He's available, and a great resource for you to tap in here too in the Southern California area. So again, that's 855-526-1600. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, and we'll be back with more after this on the other side of the break.
Retirement doesn't have to be complicated. With our Ease into Retirement process, envision, analyze, strategize, and evaluate, we'll help you create a plan that fits your life. Let's make your retirement simple, clear, and doable. Call us at 855-526-1600 to start your retirement blueprint today.
Back here for the third quarter of Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder at Mosley Wealth Management. All right, Tom, let's dive into some more content. Let's talk a little bit about 401ks. It's a great tool. It's a powerful tool, but it is not perfect. So let's talk a little bit about some of the weaknesses that maybe folks should be aware of when it comes to, I guess, the alphabet soup. You could apply this to the 401k or the 403b or the TSP or the 457, really, right? You could kind of put it across the board. So let's talk about some of the things that might be a weak point in that. Start with cost, since that's usually a biggie for people, administrative costs.
Oh, you're throwing out all those numbers, though. I have to go back to that, Mark. I think about when I was growing up, everybody wanted to know what kind of horsepower you had under the hood. You remember that?
I got a 72 Cougar sitting right out here next to me. So yes, sir, I know.
Are you serious?
Yes, sir.
My car in college was a 69 Cougar.
Oh, are you serious? That's great. That's so awesome.
Yeah, I know. It had the little lights that turned over. It had the tail lights that went bop, bop, bop.
Yes, sir.
They pointed. And man, that was like putting man on the moon during that time. It was way before its time.
It was great. I've been rebuilding this one for years, so.
Are you serious, man? What I liked about that Cougar is it had the biggest engine in it, and I got oversized tires.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I could fly.
Yes, sir.
Not that I would ever break the speed limit.
Absolutely not, yeah.
But I could fly in that thing. And when it had points, you know what I mean? Where you,
Yep.
You'd get over in there, and I could get over in there and stand inside. And I had the air conditioning and everything, and the engine was so small. I could stand over inside the engine compartment and work on it. That's
the front end on this thing's huge. It's like it's bigger than my truck.
I know. I loved that thing, and I took the console out so that my girlfriends could sit closer,
That's right.
and stuff. And we're going to stop there, or it's going to really be tough. All right.
We got off track there, but we're talking about administrative costs, and we somehow don't start talking about engine sizes. But yeah, the alphabet soup got you there. I get it.
You got it. Okay, let's talk about what are some of the problems with 401ks. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Administrative costs. They're not cheap, and you say, well, they don't charge me anything. They don't show you any charges, okay? Your employer is paying for the 401k, and that's got to come out of a bottom line. I know I've got 18 employees, and my basic core 401k costs $3,600 a year. And then I have filings on top of that I have to do, and I have to pay for those filings. And I've got a safe harbor 401k, so I have to pay 3% to every single employee, whether they're contributing or not. They get 3% contributed to their 401k. And the smaller your company is, the higher those costs go up. So, you say, well, it doesn't cost me anything. But you got to understand that employer, I is one, if you understand what I'm saying, Mark, okay? And that employer has a bottom line. So that 401k does have administrative costs, does have fees within there, and there are a lot of other things we're going to get into that have fees as well. But it does have administrative costs. Don't think that you're getting it for free.
Well, and I think sometimes we do think that because maybe we don't see it, or we're thinking that there are our employers paying it, or whatever the case is, right? So they definitely have, that's an imperfection, a weak spot. And along with really what's available, Tom. I mean, every company, as an employer, this, every company's options, you pick different plans. So maybe mutual funds and maybe not a whole lot else, depending on how your plan was set up.
Almost all of them that I see, Mark, are exclusively mutual funds. And if you know what's going on in the financial world is pretty much migrating from mutual funds to what's called ETFs, exchange traded funds. And some 401ks are being out there. Our 401k, because I can control some of it, we have ETFs in there. And the good news about ETFs is they're usually, not always, you can't make a blanket statement on anything, but they're usually a lot cheaper than mutual funds. A mutual fund's got a manager, and that manager's got to get paid. And that manager gets paid when they're up 30%. Some years, and like in 2022, when everything was down 22%, they get paid when they're down 22%. So those mutual funds many times are where the companies really make their money, because they could be, and this is one thing we do in the retirement blueprint. We run fee analysis, and we find out how much fees you are paying. And people are shocked at the mutual funds that they've got, where that good old boy that golfs with you every once a year and pays for your golfing and stuff like that, that's your broker. He's making you broker than you think, because what happens is that mutual fund might be charging you 1.25, 1.6, 1.75 just to be in that mutual fund, and that's where they're making their fees. So again, administrative costs, mutual funds, don't think they're free.
And we're talking about like the options that are in there, Tom, and you're listening to Right on the Money, by the way, folks, and we're discussing 401k imperfections. If you've got some questions or concerns about your setup and your portfolio, please reach out to Tom and his team, 855-526-1600. 855-526-1600. We're kind of talking about like some of the limited options in there. You're also talking about limited asset classes. Often you're probably looking at what? Large cap, maybe a few other things, maybe a bond fund or two, but not a lot in the way of diversification, I suppose.
Not a lot. Large cap, mid cap, small cap, baseball cap, whatever cap it is, okay? You're basically in a stock option, and then they'll throw in a few bonds, and then the dreaded target funds, okay, which is a target for when you're going to retire. Hey, Google target funds and find out how inefficient they are, because they're just a bond stock combination, and those bond stock combinations, because of the way bonds are put together, stocks up and down with the market, you can read that. But bonds are really in a tight spot right now because we've flooded the market with so many bonds for so many years. And that's why the big bank guy, there's one guy goes all over the South in a bus and those kind of things promoting bonds, is because he can't sell them in the real world, so he's got to do something, and he's always talking bonds, and he's always talking there's going to be a crash and you better be safe in bonds. Well, bonds aren't safe. Go back and look at 2022. They were down 22% as well, the same as stocks. So limited assets, that's for sure. And I'll go ahead and bring the next one up. We have subpar investments out there for conservative. There's no place for safety. Those 401ks are built for the 30, 35, 40-year-old who's just starting to save for retirement.
Right. But Tom, what about the stable fund? I can hear somebody right now saying, but wait a minute, what about the stable fund? Isn't that conservative?
The stable fund is just go put it in a checking account. It's a glorified money market that's still paying like that low money market that you might be in at the bank because you got in it at 0.5% when rates were low.
Right.
You need to check that one out because you might be able to get a whole lot more even at the bank. So, and then I guess the last thing is they're just, you can't get your money out of it. They're clunky for a withdrawal, and you could get taxed on it, and you intend to put the money back in, and there's a loan provision, and then you're paying a percentage interest on that loan. I mean, why would they offer you a loan? Because they're making money off of it. So you got to be really careful with a 401k. Administrative costs, mutual funds, limited asset class, just subpar when it comes to being safe, and then they're clunky for making withdrawals. So if you're in a 401k, and by the way, one of the things that we've learned recently is people don't know how to manage their 401k. So we have aligned ourselves with companies that will allow us to go in with our clients and manage their 401k even now. I've had so many people say, man, what a breath of fresh air, because I don't know what to do with my 401k.
Well, that's why target date funds are popular, right?
I know it is.
Yeah, low-hanging fruit.
I know it's the easy button, Mark. That's why they're so popular. But look, don't settle for that. Come see us. We can help you with that 401k to really get the most out of that investment even now.
All right, folks, well, get yourself onto the calendar for that consultation and review. Get that retirement blueprint underway with Tom and his team of all-star advisors at Mosley Wealth Management, 855-526-1600. 855-526-1600. And don't forget, you can also go by the website, mosleywealthmanagement.com. That's mosleywealthmanagement.com, M-O-S-L-E-Y, Mosley. And click on the events tab, and that way you can, or seminars tab, and check out the upcoming events that are happening all around the area. So, mosleywealthmanagement.com or 855-526-1600. You are listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, and there's more to come right after this.
You've heard the saying, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. In retirement, taxes can eat away at what you've worked so hard to save. That's why Mosley Wealth Management offers you a complimentary retirement blueprint designed to help you keep more of what's yours. Don't wait. Call 855-526-1600 now for your personalized retirement blueprint. That's 855-526-1600.
Back here for more of Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder at Mosley Wealth Management, serving you here in the Southern California area. Tom, let's wrap it up today a little bit with things that are harder than it looks. You know, you've been doing this a long time. You're so immersed in the financial services world. A lot of the things you deal with are, probably feel a little simple and routine from time to time. But for those of us who don't do this every day, it can certainly get overwhelming. So let's talk about some of the things that maybe is a little more tricky or complicated than it might first seem, and highlight some areas so that folks are on the lookout for, how to, not step in it, right? Not make mistakes. And we'll start with a classic, if it's all right with you, which is deciding when to turn on Social Security, because it seems like that's a never-ending conversation and debate.
It is. I mean, people think it's the easy button.
Right.
Some people come in and they say, well, I'm turning 62 in 2 months, and I figure you never know how long they're going to pay Social Security. They're talking about maybe diminishing the payout on Social Security in 8 years. So why don't I just turn it on at 62 while I'm still working, and I can pay extra on the house? Sounds like a great plan. It doesn't work. Let me tell you why. If you're making more than $23,400 from the time you turn 62 years of age until you reach your full retirement age, which is 66 or 67, if you're making more than $23,400 for the year, then for every $2 over that, you're going to pay back $1 of your Social Security. It's called an earnings test. When we do a survey on that, Mark, 42% of the people don't know about the earnings test. So you can't hit the easy button and turn it on when you're 62. Oh, well, then I'll wait till I'm 65. Well, 65 is Medicare. You're still under the full retirement age, because if you were born from 1946 or this side of 1946, and your Social Security should already be on by then, if you were born from 1946 and this side, then, the earnings test still is going to apply for you for at least 1 or 2 more years.
Right.
And you've got other things. Well, why don't I just wait till I'm 70 and then I can maximize it?
Well, maybe, right? But what's your break-even point? I think that's the big piece that tricks people up too, Tom, is like, well, do I get more if I turn it on at 62, or do I get more if I wait till I'm 70? Like, yeah, the check is bigger, but what's the total amount?
Oh, Mark, you fell into my trap.
Oh, I did. Okay.
Yeah, because all you got to do when you come in to meet with us to get your retirement blueprint is tell us the exact date you're going to pass away. And if you tell us the exact date you're going to pass away, we can calculate your break-even point, with the time value of money. Isn't that easy?
That's easy, yeah.
That's
perfect.
So easy. But here's another thing. If you're married, many of you are married. Many of our clients, most of our clients actually are single. Many of you are married. But if you're married, you need to calculate your taking of Social Security based also on your spouse, because one of you has the higher Social Security. Social Security itself calls that the breadwinner. When one of you is left, chances are it's going to be the lady, because ladies live longer than men.
Yep.
When one of you is left, then the breadwinner is the one that stays. So if you're going to let one grow, let the breadwinner grow as long as you can before you turn it on. You say, wow, that's complicated. Right. It's harder than it looks. That's what we're talking about right now. What's harder than it looks?
Yeah,
Social Security
that's a great point. Yeah, and they have changed so many options through the years of like the claiming strategies. There used to be different ones that you could do for couples. And so, yeah, you want to make sure that you're looking at that, not in a vacuum, right, but certainly as overall part of your plan. And to Tom's point, that's part of the retirement blueprint. So good stuff. It definitely is harder than it looks.
You know what, Mark?
Yeah.
I am a fabulous mechanic.
Okay.
I really am. We talked about cars a little bit
come
earlier
work on my
in the
car?
segment.
Come work on my car.
Well, here's the extent of my mechanical ability. My Toyota Tacoma pickup has a button on it. And when I push that sucker and it cranks, I am a fantastic mechanic. Anything after that easy button that they put right there on the dashboard of my Toyota Tacoma, I've got to take it to Kastner's. Okay.
Gotcha.
I've got to take it to my local guy there in Placentia who is fabulous, who's honest, and he's not the cheapest guy in town, but he will be honest with you. Right there on Bradford, I'll give a commercial for him. I've got to take it to Kastner's because I don't know anything else about being a mechanic. I know how to spell Social Security, a lot of people should say, but when it comes to really making that hard decision as to when and how I take it, how I coordinate it, you need some help. That's what we do. And that's one thing all of our all-star advisors, we call them all-star advisors. Every one of my advisors that interfaces with clients has taken a 19-module course on Social Security put out by the National Social Security Advisors Corporation, and they have passed a test, and it's not an easy test, so that when I have somebody standing in front of you talking about your Social Security, they're knowledgeable. It's not just some guy who knows a lot about finance and he's got a good golf score. In fact, you need to ask your broker what his handicap is on the golf course, because if it's really, really low, he spends too much time on the golf course than he does really working on your portfolio, okay? And our guys not only go to the National Social Security Advisors and learn about Social Security, they go to Ed Slott and learn about IRAs and 401k taxation. They are knowledgeable. That's why we call them all-star advisors.
Well, there you go, folks. So you reach out to the team. A great resource again for you to tap into here in Southern California. 855-526-1600. All right, we should get a few more of these in, Tom, before we wrap up the show this week. Things that are harder than they look. Designing a truly diversified portfolio. Is it harder than it looks? I'll set you up for this one. I've had conversations before where people say, I have 5 mutual funds that I bought from 5 different companies, so therefore I'm diversified.
Oh, yeah, you are.
Yeah.
In stock most of the time.
Yeah.
You say, okay, well, one of them is a bond. Okay, so you've got a stock bond diversification, not just stock, but secondly, you've got a stock bond diversification.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of risk level is on those mutual funds? Ooh, what do you mean? You probably need some stuff that's probably pretty high risk, that's going to make you some pretty good money when the market's doing really well, and you need to balance that off with something that maybe is a little bit lower risk, especially as you get closer to retirement. So risk is another diversification. What kind of tax diversification do you have in your portfolio? Oh my goodness, Tom, I can't remember all of these. Hopefully you're writing them down, because you've got stuff that's taxable. You've got stuff that's tax-free. That's your Roths and some of your life insurance policies. And you've got stuff that's tax-deferred. You're going to have to pay tax on that in retirement. That's a fourth diversification. Number 5, is it accessible? Some of your stuff is diversified in that you can access it if you need it for an emergency. And some of your stuff, if you're under 59 and a half, you can't get that money out of the 401k or the IRA without potentially paying not only tax, but a penalty. And when you get to retirement, you also need to diversify at least one more way. Some of your money you still need in a growth diversification, and some of it you need to allocate toward income because you don't have the paycheck anymore. So that's 6 diversifications, boom, 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 right off the bat there. And how many mutual funds did you say you had there, Mark?
5.
You understand?
Yeah.
So diversification, there's so many grids you have to run it through, Mark. Yeah. And you're right. You know, that person who comes in and said, man, I've spread this out over all these things. Well, and here's a big question. Why are you in ABC over here? I don't know. One guy told me one time he was in a BlackRock fund. And I said, why are you in this BlackRock fund? Because it had lost a tremendous amount of money that year.
Yeah.
And you know what he said, well, you know, I love to snorkel. And north of Lahaina on Maui, there's this place called BlackRock where I go snorkeling. And I thought, maybe that's in the clouds.
Maybe it's a sign, yeah. Okay.
Maybe it's a sign.
Yeah.
I should put some money in that BlackRock. And I told him, I said, you know, he had lost $32,000 in that BlackRock portfolio that he had in his 401k that year. And I said, you could travel to Maui about 6 times and snorkel at BlackRock for what you've lost because of what you've got in there, and you don't even know why you're in it. So diversification of your portfolio, it's key.
Well, and I don't want to beat folks up. Like, you know, this is, we get a lot of, we don't have we don't do a great job of financial education in this country, haven't for a while. And so one of the things that you guys are obviously very big on, Tom, you talked about that with the test and everything else, it is financial education. And so I don't want to beat up the listeners by saying, hey, if you went and bought 5 mutual funds at 5 different places, you may have thought you were doing the right thing, right? So you want to make sure that you are doing the right thing and get a good, succinct plan together for you. So that's what that retirement blueprint's all about. 855-526-1600. What about the 401k rollover, Tom? Because it's been a big thing the last couple of years, obviously with the tax rates being where they're at, and then with the extension now of the TCJA with the big, beautiful bill. You've got some time horizon now if you're thinking about doing 401k rollovers or even Roth conversions. What is that all about? Is it harder than it looks?
It is harder than it looks. And here's why. What if you do it wrong? What if you hit the wrong button? There was a guy who was a self-investor. 𝗟𝗏𝘁 told this story at his Boston event last year. A guy had $2.2 million in a 401k. He was going to do some tax harvesting, some 401k Roth conversions.
Mm-hmm.
And he got it all set up. He pushed the button, pushed the button again. And he realized after he pushed that button a second time and he made it permanent that he had converted $2.2 million in 1 year.
Oh, ouch.
So his tax on the last 3/4 of that was over 50% there in the state of Massachusetts. Okay?
Oh.
And so it's irreversible. And he was trying to have Ed help him get that reversed with the IRS. Sorry, because once you do it, it's like, you're not forgiven by the IRS.
Uncle Sam wants his money. He's greedy. So, yeah.
I'm not saying that we're not human at
Sure.
Mosley Wealth Management, but if you sit down with us, we will work with you on tax diversification, 401k rollovers, so you don't make that mistake. You don't want to convert too much or you'll blow your Part B and Part D Medicare premiums out of the water. You might blow your capital gains up from 15 to 20%. So many things can happen. If you think it's easy, if you think it's not harder than it looks, and you go make a mistake, you could be putting yourself behind the 8 ball. That's what we're trying to avoid. We want you to be able to use your money in retirement, not lose it because you make a wrong decision or you do the wrong thing, because it is not easy. And the rules are not as straightforward as you might think. That's why when we put together your retirement blueprint with you, don't call and say, send us one, because we don't have them on a shelf. We have to use what you have to put together your retirement blueprint. We're willing to sit down and do that and to show you how you can save money and know you have enough money to last through retirement and enjoy that retirement.
Well, Tom, I know we're up against the clock and we're wrapping up this week, but since I'm new here, can you kind of just explain a little bit more about what the blueprint's all about, since we've talked about it quite a bit today on the show, to educate me and some of our listeners as well, as what's in the retirement blueprint?
Well, it's different than your 401k and it's different than your IRA. We look at your income. You walk out of that job, you retire, you don't have a paycheck anymore. You have to be self-employed. Your income is important. That's where Social Security fits. Where's your income coming from in retirement? Number 2 is inflation. Even the CFP board even forgot to add inflation into their 5 things. We have always added it because I lived in the 70s when inflation was 15, 18, 20%. What's inflation going to do to you over your retirement? Your investments. You don't need to be invested like a 25-year-old who's got the time to make up money if you lose it. Number 4 is taxes. How much is that tax burden going to hit you in retirement? Number 5 is health care. You've got to address your health care, your long-term care. How are you going to pay for it if it hits you? And the final one is legacy. How are you going to leave it the right way? Those 6 things, income, inflation, investments, taxes, health care, legacy, we will build with you your retirement blueprint and show you how that you can have the retirement of your dreams. But you've got to pick up the phone. That's all you've got to do. Pick up the phone, come in and see us. We can work with you.
Well, thank you so much for breaking that down and for tuning in and listening today, folks. We appreciate your time here on Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm so excited to be doing the show with Tom and looking forward to many more episodes to come. So if you've got those questions and concerns and need some help about your retirement journey, get your own complimentary written retirement blueprint with Tom and his team at Mosley Wealth Management, 855-526-1600. 855-526-1600. That's 855-526-1600 to get started today with his team of all-star advisors. Tom, thanks for being here with me. Thanks for talking with me, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Hey, I'll see you then. I'll see you on the radio.
We'll see you next time right here on Right on the Money with Tom Mosley.
Mosley Wealth Management is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through Mosley Wealth Management, Inc., MWM. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership. License number 0K76766. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal, and any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Mosley Wealth Management, Inc. is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Wealth Management. This radio show is a paid placement.